Welcome to another episode of In Your Business. I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time. She doesn't even realize how long, because oftentimes I bring in local entrepreneurs, but today I'm bringing in one that I've actually known for several years, but I leave her business alone, other than I go to her business several times and transact. But beyond that, the reason I'm excited is because it's a part of a franchise. And I don't get to bring franchises on the show very often. So today I'm going to learn from Lynette, and we're going to talk about those franchises. So Lynette, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Lynette, what I like to do is get to know you as the entrepreneur. So I'm going to take you all the way back into childhood. Not that that's a long way back, but we're going to talk about childhood.
A minute ago.
And then we're going to get into the business, okay?
Okay.
But did you grow up here in the area?
No. I was actually born and raised in Kokomo, Indiana. That's where I'm from.
So Kokomo's a couple hours away.
Correct.
And so what brought you to Richmond?
Subway. When I was just out of high school, I had just graduated. It was 1983, and my father knew some people that owned back then it was called a Bressler's ice cream store, kind of like a Baskin Robbins. And my dad said, my friend's opening a deli. And at the time, it was Subway, but they just called it a deli.
Okay.
And he asked do you have any daughters that would want a job? And my dad said, I got 4 of them. So then kind of offered me up, and I just went for a part-time job because I was enrolling in nursing school. And so I thought, I'll just do this part-time. And that's what I did. So I started working at Subway part-time in 1983. And that was at the second Subway in the state of Indiana. So back then, there were less than 1,000 Subways in the world, and the store that I started at was store number 857. So fast forward to I became an assistant manager, then became a manager, and then I ended up buying a franchise, and I never finished nursing school.
Okay.
So I bought a franchise, and when I did that, I couldn't open it in Kokomo because I couldn't be right on top of someone else. Back then, that was just more of a courtesy. It wasn't like a standard rule. But went all around. I went to Seymour, Indiana, Jasper, Indiana, Owensboro, Kentucky, and I landed in Richmond because of the proximity. It would be 2 hours back to home to Kokomo. It was like an hour from Dayton, hour from Cincinnati, hour from Indianapolis, and I just felt like it was just like a really nice fit. But I didn't know a single soul when I moved here. Didn't know a single solitary person.
Well, you've already taken me on quite a journey here, and I've already learned something I didn't know as well, and we're going to come back to it.
Okay.
But I always like to start the show with getting to know as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll go back to the time when you first started thinking about what do you want to do when you grow up. Some people want to be a firefighter, other people want to be a veterinarian,
right.
Maybe a doctor. What were you thinking as a little girl? What did you want to be?
I wanted to be exactly like my dad. Like, I just worshipped him. He was like my hero, and like anything my dad did, I wanted to do. Okay. And like he worked at Sears and Roebuck, and he was a warehouse manager, but we also farmed, and like so I followed him everywhere. Like, feed the pigs, gather the eggs, like. And then deep down, probably when I was 5, I think I wanted to be G.I. Joe because I was like a little tomboy. But I went everywhere with my dad. And for Christmas, I didn't get Barbie dolls. I received a Craftsman toolbox set, and I received G.I. Joes, and like so. I was just I was my dad's little, I guess, follow shadow. I went everywhere with him. So to be something like that was just it. Like, whatever my dad was doing, that's what I wanted to do. But you're talking about when I was little.
Oh, yeah, but that's okay. It's fascinating for me to know this. So then you grew up a bit. You went into high school. Mm-hmm. In high school, were you still doing this? Were you building things?
Well, a little bit, just like with my dad. But then in high school, they offered a program where I graduated from, and it was called Health Occupations Education. I don't know. You could have, the classwork, and then you could also do like internship where you worked outside of the school and you received that credit. And so I actually worked in a nursing home for 2 years, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. That was kind of my jam. I really liked working with elderly people, and I did that every day. I would get up very early. I would go in at 7 a.m. and I would work until 11, and then I would leave, have lunch, and then I would go to school for the last couple hours of the day. So I did that for like my junior year and my senior year in high school.
Okay.
And so that like kind of got me interested into nursing. So.
Okay. So then after you graduated from high school, did you go right into the nursing program right away?
Well, I enrolled, right away. And I started taking classes, but I mean, not that I wasn't great at it. I mean, did it. You know, I
Really?
took the smallest load I could take, but I wanted to work. I loved doing subway. And then I picked up hours and hours. And I don't know, I felt a calling. I don't know.
I fully understand and get it,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And so each of us have different things that we enjoy. We have different passions, the whole bit. And some people like video games. Other people like, building things. Whatever it is might be, that's what you should pursue, okay?
Right.
And the markets today allows that.
Right.
And there's something else that was going on back in the 80s when you graduated high school, and that was we didn't have the internet.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Seeing as how we didn't have the internet, we didn't have a lot of the things we have today.
Right.
I mean, we have a live studio audience today of students,
Right,
okay?
right.
And I can tell you that every single student, if we looked at them right now, most of them have their phones.
Sure.
And they might be playing a game, or they might be sending a text, or they might actually be looking up something, like the history of Subway. But whatever that might be, I encourage the use of the phones.
Right.
Okay, because I think it's one of the most wonderful things they could have. And the assets we have today we're dealing with is so much different than what we had in the 80s.
Exactly.
But as we transition, you said Brestlers, and I have not heard that name in so long.
Yeah.
Did your family have a part of that?
No, it was friends of ours, and it was like when you in the store. I should preface this that the store that I worked in was inside of a mall. So my dad was at Sears, the anchor store, and Brestlers was like a little ice cream.
Was that here in Richmond?
No, in Kokomo.
Good, because I have to be honest and tell you that when I worked in the mall for 6 years, loved every day, every minute, but Brestlers was literally in front of my store. So I was selling shoes
Oh.
at Gallon Camp Shoes, and Brestlers was the ice cream store, and I had ice cream 2 and 3 times a day.
Oh wow! Yes, I didn't realize that there
And
was one here too.
It never cost me anything.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that you're right. That at the time that was where the girls were working.
Right.
And I really loved working in the mall and eating ice cream.
My
It was
dad would
great.
go on his break and he would get like the flavored Cokes. He would get like a flavored cherry Coke or lemon Coke, and then he just became friends with them. And then they opened right next door in what used to be an old bank, and that's where they put the Subway franchise. But back then, no one knew what Subway was. I mean, no one knew what it was.
Yeah, I forgot the name of the store. I remember the name of the girls, but I forgot the name of the store. So
Yeah.
every day was Sundays. I loved it. But anyway, to move past that, so you started your career, and what did that look like? What did your career look like going into it?
Well, I thought about this morning, and then I'd also talked to my daughter about it. I think about like at age 21 buying a franchise, and things are different now than they were then.
Right.
And I think that if you look at, I don't know how many 21-year-olds would be able to do that, because I think like back then things were a lot different. The cost were different.
Right.
But also I felt like at age 21, you're kind of brave, and you don't have as many fears. And for me, like I think back, like I think more cautiously and carefully about the things I do now. And as you get older, but when you're 21, you're young, and it's like you got the world by the tail, and you can do things like that. And I think for me, it was just like, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Like, woo, here we go.
But you also don't have a lot of the responsibilities, and so it makes sense if you
Right.
can to try to do it.
Yeah.
And so whereas 21 sounds like a really young age, it's also a very responsible age. So you can do it.
I was terrified though, because I didn't know anyone, and and you're starting your own business. But I worked from sun up to sundown. I mean, like I went in and opened the store, and sometimes I didn't leave till. I mean, I would work all day, In the beginning, that's how it was. That's how it had to be in the beginning. I mean, I never left.
Yeah.
I made subs for a living. I slung so many subs, but that's what you have to do.
Right.
If you own your own business, for sure.
So that was when you were 21, and that's when you purchased the first. You purchased a franchise. Okay, was that here in Richmond? Which store was that?
So my first store was Subway 1914, which still is in existence. It was where these people will know where Jack's Donuts is.
I know where Jack's Donuts is.
That's where my first Subway store was. But before that, it was, when I first bought it, it was the old Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips.
Okay.
And that's the location. But now that store has been moved, and it's down by, right across from the mall by the Expert Tire.
Right, next door to, right there by Burger King and that area right through there,
next
right.
To, okay,
yeah.
so that's where that store is.
Yeah.
And like I said, you know, the store I started at was 857, and that store number is 1914. You know, and now there's over, you know, 39,000. I don't know. You got someone have to look that up. How many stores are open right now today? How many Subway stores? So it's like, I don't know, over 30-some thousand. So
we'll get back to that question. Is one of the students here in the audience looks up how many Subway locations there are today.
Yeah.
And do you want to know that worldwide or just in the U.S.?
Oh, worldwide.
Worldwide. So we got to make sure we
Worldwide.
get the right answer.
Yeah, worldwide. How many stores are open right now today?
That's right. So then you have 3 locations
Mm-hmm.
that you own. Is that correct? So you started with the one, and have you just taken one and then to the second
to the
and then
second,
to the
to the
third?
third, and yeah, kind of like that. I mean, then opened the West Side store, which is over by Earlham, but that wasn't the original location. It used to be across the street. And then the building across the street came up for sale. We purchased that building, tore down that building, and built the new store where it is today.
Okay.
And then Chester Boulevard, which is this store right here, actually wasn't exactly where it is now either. And that one was a prefab. It came in like on a trailer.
Okay.
And then we ended up moving the store where it is now. And that store is actually on a pay lake. A guy bought it, and so like it looks like a Subway still, but he sells bait and everything. And I can't remember, it's down by Cambridge City. I want to say it's like Martin Lake or something like that. They call it a pay lake. Like if you want to go out there and fish and you go buy bait,
Right.
that's where the old Subway store is. Because it was a prefab. Came in 2 pieces.
So
It
they
was like
came
a
back
chair.
and picked it up, and
Yeah,
then they
we
took it to
s-
Cambridge
well, we
City,
sold it to
and,
them, yeah.
and that building that used to be Subway is now a pay lake
Yeah.
where people are fishing from.
And so this store was built from the ground up.
Okay.
And then, like, I mean, I should preface too that we're a family, even though I'm a franchisee, I mean, it's a family run operation. And then my
Right.
husband, he designed all the stores. Like, he chose that layout. And Chester Boulevard was the first one. I mean, like, we are right beside a bank,
Right.
and we have the overhang over the drive-through. And the brick building, I don't know, I've had people say, oh, your Subways look like a bank. And I was like, well, maybe a little bit. But they're beautiful. I mean, they're not, I don't know, I have people that tell me all the time, like, your stores are the prettiest Subways I've ever seen. But we take a huge amount of pride in that. But anyhow, my husband sat and actually drew it on a napkin what his vision was, and then took it to an architect and came up with a plan. So then every store moving forward, if you go through Richmond, they all look alike. And we did that on purpose. So that, well, for several things, recognition. When you drive through town and you say, oh, that's a Subway store, because you see the one on Chester Boulevard, the one on the west side, oh, that's a Subway store, they all look alike. Oh, the one on the east side, that's a Subway store, they all look alike. But when I have an employee work at one store, and if I need them at another store, we try to keep everything the same. So like if you walk in and you're an employee working at one store, you can find everything easily, like kind of that purpose too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I think it's interesting because I'm going to go back and talk about when you actually purchased into the franchise.
Okay.
You could start your own business, okay, with an idea, and this is what I'm going to do. You chose to buy a franchise.
Right.
Why is that?
I have said so many times to people Subway, owning a franchise, you're going to have guidelines. You have to pay royalties. That's the downside. You're going to pay royalties, but you also have a protection, and then you also have the worldwide recognition. You know, like back when I first started, when I moved here and I asked people, where do you go to get a sub? They told me Kmart. There was nobody selling subs in Richmond, Indiana in 1986. And that's when I started here. So I opened my first store in 1986, but as Subway grew and became more known, and then they started with some national television, then it's like, oh, okay, hey, that's a franchise. So that's part of buying into a franchise. You get that recognition. And then as you travel and and it's just like if you go to Europe and you see that, McDonald's sign, that's a franchise. If you see the Subway sign, that's a franchise. You know what you're going to get.
Right.
And I think, like, if you ask me for a downside, it's like there are rules that you have to follow. In times, they're not great. They may roll out with a new product that I'm not real keen on, or they'll roll out with a product and the customers will love it, and then they'll take it away. Research and development will say, nope, this isn't going well, we're going to take it away. And I tell people, well, if that sign out front said Lynette Sub Shop, we could do whatever we want.
Right.
But it doesn't. So because of that, and like my employees, they have to wear the uniform, they have to wear the visor, they have to wear the apron, they have to wear, the shirt. And I tell them that, that's not me, that's not my choice. That's because we're part of a franchise, and you're required. That's a requirement. Can't get around it. It's what it is. Now, if it said Lynette Sub Shop, maybe we didn't have to wear all of those things, but we follow the rules, and that's part of being a franchise. You have rules that are set out, in front of you. You have, and like I said, then you have to pay the royalties, and then you also have a little bit of that protection. And I think that's the huge difference between buying into a franchise and, and like I said, or doing your own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're excited though, and I think what that means is that it is your business. Okay.
Right.
When you buy a franchise, you're getting a lot of assistance. You're showing you how to set it up and the whole bit. One of the things you said was that your husband designed this on a napkin.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's interesting as an entrepreneur as well.
Well, you say a lot of guidance, and that's a funny thing, and that it's true, but honestly, like going back, like when I first started, there was not a blueprint. Like they kind of threw you into the deep end. Like I went to Subway training in Connecticut, where Subway World headquarters is, and I had my training there, and I'd worked at a Subway for several years, obviously, so I had a leg up on anyone else who, just rolled in. However, like as far as like building a building, like a lot of Subways are inside of a strip mall, or different locations, different things.
Sure.
To have a, that's called a freestanding location.
Sure.
There was never a blueprint. So like until years later, that didn't come down the pike until years later. So when my husband drew that on a napkin, people weren't like building Subways, brick buildings like that. They were leasing places. And so the difference for us is along the way, we have purchased our land, purchased our building, built our own store. So not every Subway owner does that, but along the way, that's what we have chose to do. And and you do get a little leeway, but you have to have everything approved. Like everything has to be approved. And just like the equipment that we have, it's all Subway approved equipment. We can't just go and order an oven from somewhere. It has to be a Subway approved oven. We can't just get a microwave at Meijer or Target. No, it has to be a Subway approved microwave, that kind of thing.
So this is raising another question for me, which I hope you don't mind, because what happens is I tell the students all the times, I've got to get into the business. I've got to learn the business, okay? That's the way my brain works. So the brick that we're seeing, like in the front of our location here, that's a design that you guys came up with. It wasn't necessarily anything that came from the franchise.
Right.
It's been approved, obviously.
Right.
And you're using their equipment and such. But does that mean then that you own the land, you own the building, and that would not be a part of the franchise?
Correct.
And so that is like almost, do you have a parent company then that you lease from?
Yes. So then, my husband and I have our own, company that manages, our buildings and our land, and that's something we did totally separate. But Subway, you have to have a lease through Subway, in order for that to happen. So we lease it back to Subway corporate.
Sure.
Yeah. And, and that's just like, honestly, we call that our retirement. I mean, someday I mean, I don't know when. There could possibly be someday down the road that I would want to retire. And if that's the case, and I sold the franchise, I can sell the franchise to you.
Right.
And you could buy the franchise, but I'm still going to own that building and that land. That's my end game. That's my retirement, our retirement. So.
Yeah. See, I think that's the fun part about business, okay, is that strategy.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that. You know, they drive by, they think, oh, this is Subway. They would think if you were to sell Subway, that turns over. They wouldn't realize that that land and that building remains in your hands,
Right.
even with a new owner of a
Right.
Subway.
And that's not the case everywhere. It's
Right.
just that's what we chose to do.
Sure.
I mean, that was our personal choice, and yeah, and it's a
and-
lot of work too.
And we see Subways even
Right.
like in, you know, retail establishments and such.
Right.
And so those are sublease spaces.
Right.
So-
There used to be
so-
a Subway here.
Correct, on campus.
Yeah,
yes,
on campus
yes.
years ago. Yeah.
How convenient that was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that was
so
many years ago.
I have to find out if we have an answer on the number of those locations. So it looks like Grant's holding up his phone, and so
Yep.
Mr. Luby, what's the answer? You're showing me numbers, but I'm not seeing them. So
36,592.
Sounds about right.
36,592 locations worldwide of Subway.
Right. Yeah.
That's just a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So my last store number of the store that I purchased was 37352. Yeah. So then that would mean what? They've
Well,
closed a few
I was
along
going to
the
say,
way.
it sounds like they
Yeah.
were up
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
and down. So,
Some have closed along the way. So, but that store has now been sold because I used to own the one inside of Walmart here, but we did sell that one.
Okay.
And then we also used to own the one in Hagerstown, and we did sell that one last year.
Okay.
So, and it's just our own for us. We're aging.
Okay.
We're aging, but just to downsize our workload a little bit. But you know, we still have the 3 in Richmond, and they keep us very busy.
Sure,
busy now.
sure.
Yeah.
So how many employees do you have?
Right now we have approximately, I'm gonna say between 80, 90-ish, that range. Probably closer to, yeah, maybe about 80, 90. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's with 3 locations. You're having close to 90 employees.
Mhm.
And
Roughly.
they're
Yeah.
I mean, they're your responsibility.
Right, right.
And I think it's interesting because we think of Subway. Most of us know it is a franchise. We know that you own the 3 here in Richmond. You speak of 90 employees, but I have to brag on the employees here at the
Please
Chester
do.
Boulevard because
Please
I
do.
go there often. It's so convenient just for me to run between classes and such. You have employees with longevity here.
Oh yeah.
How long is the
Oh, my
longest
God.
one?
I would have to say she has been with us, and I think at last count, I want to say 27 years, maybe 26, 25, 26, not including our family that works for us, because our
Okay.
daughters work for us, and
Right.
they've been with us forever. But yeah, we have employees that have been with us for over 25 years. We have employees that have been with us for 10, 15, and I know, and I take pride in that because I think that does speak volumes, because I have always been huge about, we take care of our employees in so many ways that, like, we work around their schedules. We know that they have lives and sports and other activities and things, but we try really hard to be accommodating, and that can be trying. But I think like they're our face. They are what represents us. And when you say like how they take care of you, I hear it all the time. But even like on the east side of town, like we have so many that are. Well, they do everywhere. All the stores, they'll have regulars that. Someone just told me the other day they're already making their sandwich. They see them pull in the parking lot. They've already got their sandwich made sitting on the counter because they know what they're going to order. We do have a lot of that, and I think that's wonderful. I think that's great, and I know that Subway is not the end all for everyone. I know that students, are going to like me, do a part-time job, and then there's some that are going to, like maybe become a assistant manager, become a manager, stay on. I know it's not the end all, but I think it's a great stepping stone. I think it's a great first job, and we have a lot of those. And I don't know, I just think like having employees that care, and then we care about them, I mean, it's a win-win. I mean, you know, it's gonna come back to you tenfold.
Sure.
And you see it in the customer service that they give. I mean, we get compliments all the time. I thank you for noticing that and complimenting, because, I mean, I think our employees are great.
I agree. So I have to ask you, because we're down in the final 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But I have to know, what is the greatest reward of being an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh, I would say, like, you know, I have that luxury of having my own schedule, and I think back, like, that luxury I had as, you know, a young mother, having my daughter. Like, I would be able to just leave and go and pick her up from preschool, and or, you know, having the kids, and like being able to go to, you know, run to the school and go to their programs that they would have. And, you know, I would always have that luxury and have that time off. But I also know that, like, it's a Monday through Friday, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day job. You know, it's a lot of responsibility. But I guess the reward is, like, that, you know, having that flexibility, having that freedom. I guess also building something in the community that, like, wasn't there and I feel like was needed. But I have to interject too, we do a lot in the community. We donate to the schools, we donate to the churches. I mean, we have people that ask us for, you know, things for like a raffle, or they've got a benefit or ride, or, you know, things like that. And we do. I mean, we do. And we support as much as we can in the teams, and we do all the things that we can. And I
Sure.
think that also it's a reward to us, because it comes back to us tenfold.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate everything you're doing.
oh, thank you.
So, this concludes another episode of In Your Business. Today we met with a very interesting entrepreneur, because she's a part of a franchise. And that just means that she used her resources and her tools to make things great for us here in Richmond. You know, she spoke of the fact that people in this community benefits greatly because of the donations that she makes, the contributions, the support, the things she's doing. It's the jobs, it's people working 25 years there, because she creates a great environment. I want to encourage you not to go in and ask for something, but to go in and support this local entrepreneur. That way she can continue to do the great things she's doing. Thanks again for watching In Your Business.